Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to be here again in 2019, bringing you quality programs. And it is definitely one of the platforms that you need to be on this year, listening to all of these amazing participants who is here to share their information. And if you're not sure what the BMWC is all about, just check out the page and you'll realize that we are unifying people from all over the country, all over the globe, to share their career and business industry information. And that information is going to help you make informed decisions about your personal and professional growth. So make sure that you are checking out all of the pages, check out all of the past pages and all the podcasts. And when I say pages, I'm also talking about listening to their podcasts. And I also want you to take a moment to like, share, and vote, because we have 7 BMWC awards coming up again for the 3rd time this year. And if you would like to see who won awards, check out 2017 and 2018 pages and you will see who won awards for those particular seasons. Before we get into our person today, our person of interest, we're going to be bringing on someone who is helping small businesses recover their billing. And so this is definitely critical for anyone who's a small business who is looking for someone who does collections and does it well. We're going to be talking to her. But before we get into her interview today, we would like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, who are My Financial Home, Evangelism Radio, JNF Enterprises, Sears Consulting, Autism Families Rock, Awakening to Love, Eli Natoli, Kimberly McLemore, True Synergy, and Platinum Financial Services, along with our other BMWC participants who's helping to make this season a good success. So we're going to get right into it to announce Dee Bowden to the podcast. She is the founder and BCS Solutions owner. She's a recovery revenue consulting firm that helps small businesses make big money impacts. She is a native of Boston, Massachusetts, with over 20 years of financial management experience. She's also a 2018 graduate of the Steve Harvey's Act Like a Success School of Business program, and she focuses on helping companies and government agencies recover lost revenue and increase their cash flow. She has also been successful in collecting over $50 million of revenue for several companies in her state and also local agencies. So as you guys continue to read her bio, let's get into the interview with Miss Dee Bowden. Hey, girl, how you doing?
Good evening, Ann. How are you? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning.
Oh my goodness!
To all who are listening around the world, good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
That's right.
Cheers to everybody. Cheers to everybody. That's what's up. That's how we're going to do this.
Yes.
Cheers to everybody.
That's
raise
right,
your
to
glass.
everybody. That's
everybody.
right. You know,
look here. Raise your glass or whatever, ... Raise your glass, ...
Raise your glass. Now, see, we were already having fun, folks. We were already having fun before we got on the air. But you know what? This is how we like to do it in the BMWC. We like to have fun. And so I appreciate Dee coming out. And you know what? She also came out to the Veterans Biz Up Conference, where she lent her support and her photography, taking pictures of everybody there. And I really appreciate that, and sharing some of the stuff. So Dee, tell us where you're from. You know, how did you get into, collections, and what type of interest did you have when you were growing up?
Okay. Well, I see this is a triple factor with all these questions. So let me see here. First, I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, born and raised, and also part-time native of a little town called Mount Olive, North Carolina. So it goes like this. Born and raised in Boston. Every summer, when I was a baby until I was 18 years old, we used to take what's called, this is the old school, 24-hour Greyhound bus ride. Most people on the planet are like, a bus what? Yeah, bus ride. That means you go on the bus for 24 hours to this little town called Mount Olive, North Carolina. Now, Mount Olive's claim to fame is pickles. If you all go into the major grocery stores and go down the pickle aisle and look at pickles, there's a little jar called Mount Olive Pickles. So that's a little town where my grandparents are from. And so for 18 years, I spent my summers with them. So I'm happy to say I'm a byproduct of Boston, Massachusetts, born and raised, but also the little town called Mount Olive, North Carolina as well. So that was the first. That's where I'm from. What was your second question?
So, okay, so you went to Mount Olive. Okay, so now, what interest did you have when you were growing up before you started to get into collections?
Oh goodness. Well, it's so funny that you asked that. And so growing up, I was old school tomboy. So I loved to race my bike, climb trees, play dodgeball. I wasn't really all into the girly stuff, the dolls and all that stuff. That was my thing. Hanging out with the fellas, yeah, that was all day, every day. So I loved hanging out with them. Loved to race my bike. So as a kid, I'm sure I gave my dad a couple of scares because I was just I always loved to race my bike. So a couple of times I had some serious tumbles, messed my scrapes and scars and all that kind of good stuff. But thankfully, I recovered. But those are some of my things. The other thing I loved, and I've always loved, is music. I've always been a huge fan of music. So a lot of people don't know about me is that I was a classically trained pianist for about 8 years. I took classical piano.
Really?
Yeah, I took classical
I
piano
would
for.
have never
I
knew
know,
that you would
right?
play the
I know,
piano
right?
because I play the piano. Oh, okay, I need some refresher lessons then.
Well, I don't. I listen. I haven't played I haven't played the piano in over 20 something years. But back in the day,
Mhm.
I studied classical piano for about 8 years, and in high school, I was my high school's glee club accompanist. So every show,
Wow.
so every fall and every spring, we had a concert, and I would either you used to play the piano and or sing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I've always been a fan of music. So my interests were classical music. I love jazz. Like to this day, I'm still a huge jazz fan. So you catch me outside with some good smooth jazz and some sangria, girl, it's a good day.
Well, you know what? When we get together, we're definitely going to do that because, like you, I'm a singer. So I sing and I actually play the piano, but I'm not classically trained. I'm actually self-taught and I know how to play piano to the best of my ability. I haven't, done like a huge, like, concert or anything like that in a long time, just like you. But you know what? I can use a jazz band because I love jazz. So whenever you're up here in the DMV area, we definitely got to get together. And I love sangrias as well. So
Okay,
fast.
perfect. Well, I got two things for you. I got two things
Uh
for
oh.
you. So
Uh
I
oh.
I, I got you. I already got you. I already got you. So we good. So along with so singing in high school, so I sang in
Mhm.
the chorus and played piano, for the Glee Club.
Mhm.
And then in college, I laid down the piano and I really went after singing. So I sang in the school's chorus all 4 years of undergrad. So every fall and every spring we had a spring and fall concert. So I usually had some solo, almost either solo or duet most times. And so really, I've always loved music, and I guess that really starts from growing up in church. So I should probably kind of segue in that because I know my love of music and true really great music comes from growing up in church. And my dad was a singer, just at home, but he always taught the importance of loving music, of course, loving God, loving family, loving music, and so he was the one to introduce me to the piano, and also into singing, and so growing up was music was always something, especially on Sunday afternoons after church. It was nothing for him to come into the living room and start playing something, and I would scoot up and say, "Move over, Dad, I want to sing too," and that kind of stuff. So I shout out to Dad, although he's gone, but his memory still his memory and his deposits still live on. So yeah, but that's definitely where it came from. But growing up in church, I think
Mhm.
my first my first solo. Oh my gosh, so y'all are gonna holler, y'all are gonna crack up laughing. So my first solo, I was 10, and the song is called "I Believe." And I remember walking up on stage at church, and I'm looking out in the audience, and I literally freeze. I know you can't imagine me, just the gregarious one that I am today,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
I seriously froze, and
Mm.
it took a minute before I could finally get my song out.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
standing there, and I'm like, "OMG!" I'm like, I don't remember any of the words. Now, I grew up, in church. If you grew up in church, if you had that mom, baby, that's not how that goes. Say that line again. Wait a minute, that's not the right note. What you saying? That kind of stuff. And so anyway, I had
Mhm. Mhm.
practice, but for real, I got up there and I froze. It took a minute, and then I
Mhm.
finally got the courage up, and I finally sang my song. Oh, I have it. I wish I could remember all the words, but there's a line in the song that says, "I believe in the grate somewhere a candle glows and every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or see a leaf or touch the sky, then I know why I believe. And so that
Wow.
song,
Mm-hmm.
that song when I was 10 was 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 powerful. And here's what's funny. I didn't remember that song until about maybe 10 years ago when I was working for FedEx part-time. I'm stacking packages, and all of a sudden, like after I was 10, so I'm late 30s, early 40s. So 30 years have passed before I remember that song, and all of a sudden I'm in the trailer trying to sing this song to the top of my lungs while I'm stacking these packages.
Wow.
but
Oh my
but
goodness.
but it was that song because it talked
Mm-hmm.
about I believe, and the reason I'm
Right.
sharing a little bit about that is because as an entrepreneur, you have to have something to believe in. That's why you start.
Absolutely.
That's why you start your business. You start your business with the belief that you can make a difference. You can sell the best widget, fry the best chicken, braid the best hair, make the best shea butter, solve the financial problems like I do. Whatever it is, you believe that you are the best at what you do. And if you don't stand up for that belief and then go after it with all that you've got, you will never know. And so I share that to say, a little bit about me, about that song. Yeah, I was 10 and, way past 10 now, but that song still holds a strong
Mm-hmm.
belief in who I am. And of course, my faith in God obviously definitely is even stronger today. But it all started growing
Mm-hmm.
up in church with singing that little song, Freezing on Stage, come up. Yeah.
But you know what though? You know what, Dee? I think you come from like, one of those generations like myself, where they had powerful songs. And I think in parallel to what you're talking about, is that I also sung, the one, If You Believe, one from the Wiz and all that kind of stuff. And that was sort of one of my first solos in elementary school, followed by Endless Love, believe it or not. I actually learned how to play that song, and
Wow.
actually sung it in like the fifth grade. So it was like really interesting where you have all these powerful songs that help define who you are. And here you are, fast forward to today, owner of BCS Solutions. So let's
Hmm.
talk about that. You got into collections. What was that thing that kind of got you into this line of work?
Well, you know what, and that's a great question. It's funny because it started, let's see, back in 1988. The story kind of goes like this. I worked for an engineering consulting firm, and I actually got my start by literally doing data entry. I was given stacks of invoices back in the day to have to key them all into this accounting system. I think it was called McCormick and Dodge from back in the day. And so basically, this engineering firm, consulting firm, dealt with water, wastewater, and some other things. But anyway, so they had these invoices that had to be keyed in. So my start was, here's a batch of invoices, tally up everything, give us the total number, key it in, and then make sure that everything that you keyed in matches with the number that's on the sheet. So 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 5 weeks, that's what I did. And then once I started seeing, okay, all of these invoices are tied to a contract. So services are being provided, bills are being submitted, money's coming in. I'm like, I want to know how this all works. So from there, I actually I got hired to be an accounts payable processor. And so I still do the same thing, but just from doing data entry. Then I learned the chart of accounts. I learned how the company began to work from the invoicing of services to other companies, state agencies, federal agencies. And I was like, this is interesting. And then what really kicked it off for me was I met my first contract administrator, and I was like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a contract administrator. I'm like, what's that? And he says, well, in every business, you've got 4 things. You have sales, accounts payable, accounts receivable, contracts. Contracts is what happens is a legal agreement between your company and another company to do or buy a service or a product. And I was like, oh, for real? He's like, yeah. And he said, every business has this. He goes, I don't care what kind of business you have. If you're in business, if you're doing it legally, you ought to have a contract. And then he was somebody that sells your product or service, somebody who bills for your service or product, somebody collects for your service or product, and then the contract. I was like, I want to learn that. So I spent a year as accounts payable data entry person, and then I was blessed to be able to work under him. as a junior contract administrator, and so he trained me on the entire contract administration process. And so that also included understanding how the sales process worked, how invoicing worked, how collections worked, and then how the contracts work. And then I was like, oh, this is pretty fascinating. And he helped me to understand that this doesn't just happen in the engineering field. This happens in every industry around the world. Everybody does these 4 things in business. And so once I trained under him for a year, then I got promoted, and I actually got to be my own contract administrator for the construction division. And my division actually built a water filtration plant up in Hemlock, New York, which is actually right outside of Rochester, New York. And so, and with that, so to the piece about collections, with that, once I got to be a full contract administrator myself and was responsible for making sure that all the payments went to all the vendors who did all the work, that's how I learned about collections, because one of the project that my construction guys were working on, previously there had been another administrator, and I don't know what happened, but there was a big mess, and the city of Rochester, New York, was not paying my engineering firm any money. And so that was my first real baptism into collections, because there were hundreds of thousands of dollars that were sitting unpaid. And, I reported to a vice president at the time, and he's like, hi, I'm here. This is welcome to the team. Here's your first assignment. We are owed all this money, and we don't know why. Your job, kind of like old school Mission Impossible. If you choose to accept this assignment, this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. It was like one of them.
So the 007. So you're like
pretty
the 007, in terms of collection.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. He's like, so if you choose to accept this assignment, here you go, and this tape will self-destruct. So here you go. This is what's going on. You need to figure this out. Real talk. I'm just telling you how it went. So I was okay. So I literally get on the phone. I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Dee with CDM, and I'm talking to the chief engineer from the city of Rochester, New York. And this is a big guy, and he was kind of pissed. And I was like, all right, sir, listen. The story went like this. I said, sir, listen, I understand that there were some mistakes made on how you wanted the invoices submitted to you. I wasn't there before when this happened. I'm the new person on the block. I'm calling you to see if we can work out some arrangements so I can understand what happened, what was wrong, how do you want it, and then I need you to give me 30 days so I can untangle all this mess, because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then get it back on track, and then work with you to make sure we don't end up here again. I don't feel like doing that. I said, well, sir, here's the thing. If you don't allow me to understand your process, then I can't fix this. Then he got quiet. He's like, you know what? All right, fine. You got 30 days. That's literally how he said it.
30 days.
You got 30 days. All right, cool. I said, so I'm going to send you an email. Can you just confirm everything we talked about in the email? And then you say, yep, we good. That's how we're going to rock it. So we did. So it took me 30 days to untangle hundreds of thousands of dollars and get the invoices resubmitted, revised, all the supporting documents that he needed sent back to him. And he finally reviewed everything and finally approved it. And that's when I learned back then that collections is an extension of customer service. Collections requires building relationships. Collections requires being willing to do what I call getting into the weeds, asking the hard questions, being willing to be vulnerable and admit, yeah, we made some mistakes, and admit, where you're wrong, and then do your best to fix it, and then course correct so that you'll end up here again. So I'm happy to say that it took about 30 days to untangle that. We went, the project continued to go forward, and the water filtration plant up in Hemlock, New York, got built. It's still open. It's still running as of today, and this is 2019.
Wow, what an awesome story! First of all, thank you for sharing, such a fun story, and then also a success story too. Because what I really find interesting too is what you said about building relationships as far as collections, because there are a lot of people who don't even do that. They just call you up and they demanding the money. You have no idea what's going on half the time on both sides. But I like the fact that you're talking about building a relationship so that you can actually find out the problem and fix the problem. And so I want to applaud that is an approach that you're taking that's making your business successful. And so, since you kind of shared, your success story, what has been one of the worst experience in terms of collecting money from either a small business or from a government entity?
Wait a minute, is this being recorded? Let me stop playing.
Yes, it is. They're going to rewind, Dee. They're going to rewind and listen to you. So you got to put it out there just a little bit, just a tad.
a little bit. Let's see. What's been the worst? Well, it's funny. If I think about it seriously, I haven't really had a lot of hard accounts that I've not been able to collect. I have had challenges, but eventually I usually get them figured out. And so let me say this. The reason I truly believe is that number one, I honor God in everything I do. So I believe the reason for all of my success over the 20 years of doing this has been I put God first. So that's, if anybody what's my secret sauce, it's God. So that's first. Secondly, I believe that, there are some, okay, in business, yes. Are there some accounts that are just really hard and they are impossible to collect? Absolutely. And some of it, if you think about it, if you have a real bad account, it's kind of like having a bad date. You know how when you first start dating, y'all will probably appreciate this. You ever had a date and you look up and you're like, man, this person is beautiful, they fine, and whatever. And then you start drilling down, you're like, this child is crazy as I don't know what. Well, in the same vein with business, there are some accounts that you're like, man, I knew I shouldn't have picked this one to work with because I had a feeling it wasn't right. And so I like to say that when I've had accounts that are like that, usually I kind of know this one I'm not going to be able to untangle it because some things are just so messed up that it's just not worth the time. So sometimes you really do have to decide, is it worth going after this? And if it's taking a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of extraness, it's like, you know what? Sometimes you have to cut your losses. Just like in a bad relationship, you look up, you're like, you crazy. I'm like, you know what? I can't. I just can't. I just can't with you. What y'all say? I just can't with you.
You just can't. Right. You just gotta pass it on. You gotta pass it on.
You have to cut it because in business it's called bad debt. Well, in relationships you're like, girl, bye, Felicia, all that. You just have to cut it because here's the thing. You have to look at the cost of how much time, energy, and money are you spending into trying to collect $100 from somebody who ain't gonna never pay you. I mean, if they didn't pay you up front in the beginning and you still chasing them, it's like, girl, bye. No, you know what? You have to know when to cut your losses and acknowledge that this account isn't working. So have I had a couple of those? Absolutely. And in the government space, yes. Have I had some accounts that were given to me to collect on that were old? Okay, so for example, I've had accounts to collect on behalf of the federal government that have gone back. This is 2019. When I first started dealing in the government space, it was actually 20 years ago, 1999. My first account that I worked on to figure out how to collect it, the account had been awarded. Listen to me, y'all. 1980. I was a freshman in college. 1980. True story. $45,000 was still left to be collected. So that money sat on the books for 19 years. The contract was awarded in 1980. I got it in 1999. So 19 years had passed.
Wow.
With that money still sitting on the books. Did it take me some time to untangle it? Yes, and I did get it. But the point was, it's like it sat there. And so I'll say this in terms of bad collections. There will always be some accounts that you really do have to decide. You kind of have to do what I call old school T-square. Okay, how much time and energy am I spending on this? How much time do I really feel like chasing this? And is this account worth all of this? You as a business owner have to decide. If you think you're going to continue to do business with this person, then yes, it's worth you figuring out the disconnects, figuring out how come they haven't paid you, and then going to bat to untangle it. Eventually, but you eventually have to get to a point where you go, you know what? I have to cut my losses, write this off as bad debt, and know, okay, this was a teaching moment for me to realize all money ain't good money, and some accounts are just not good accounts, and sometimes you just have to know, like, if you get that kind of in your spirit, you're like, this don't feel right. that might be a sign. You might want to check that one and go, nah, I'm not doing this again, because I'm hoping that you learn something from it. It's kind of like I said earlier, when you have a bad date, you see that person, you're like, oh man, she's fine or he's fine, but something inside goes, they're crazy. You're like, oh, they'll be all right.
Okay. Oh, you know what, Dee? You're so crazy. But you know what? I think you're speaking the truth, and you actually answered like my question that was going to come up. Like if somebody wanted, and maybe you can add like maybe two really quick pieces of advice for someone who wants to get into collections and didn't have the affordability that you had in terms of training. If someone wanted to get into collections, what are maybe two major things that they could do to break into this type of industry, if you can kind of cover that real quick?
Oh, sure. Happy to. So first of all, getting into collections means this. Number one, you need to know what the term accounts receivable means. That's number one. Number two, you need to understand there's four things. If you're going to do collections, you need to know four things. You need to know about sales. You need to know how the sales process works. Like, how is your product sold or product or service sold? You need to know accounts payable, which is how the invoices are prepared to go get the money that for the sale that was made. You need to accounts receivable is how you collect the money, which is the money that's being paid for the invoice. And you need to know, like, contractually how all this works together. That's the first thing. Secondly, you have to have a love, or at least a strong like, for problem solving, because collections is problem solving. I said earlier in the conversation that it's customer service. Customer service, if you think about it, is problem solving. I gave a perfect example. When you get your phone bill from whoever, you call up and they ask you, hey, what's your name on the account? What's your account number? And they check a couple things. How can I help you? When you call them because you got a problem. You try to get somebody to resolve your issue. Well, collections is the same thing. You as a business owner are calling that other company because you want them to help you untangle how come they haven't paid you, especially if you provided excellent service or an excellent service or excellent product and you haven't gotten paid in, say, 30 or 60 or 90 days. Your job is to reach out to them. So collections is problem solving. It's customer service. I think you got to have a good sense of humor. You definitely have to have some patience because it doesn't happen overnight. If you're not a person that's not willing to get into what I call the weeds, this is not for you, because collections requires kind of like I said earlier about Mission Impossible, it's detective work. You got to be willing to go figure out what happened. There's a story that's been told. The product or service was sold. It was bought, sold. They were billed, supposed to collect the money, and you don't have the money. You don't know why, and then you're upset. Well, you can't be upset. You got to go back and it's following a puzzle. As a matter of fact, the logo for BCS Solutions is a puzzle piece because that's what collections is. It's a puzzle. It's untangling puzzles, untangling disconnects, pieces, puzzles.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for those great tips. I think those are awesome. And you definitely gave more than just two. You actually gave 5 or 6. And I hope a lot of people are writing these notes down or at least rewinding this interview so that they can hear all of these great tips that you shared and also all the experiences that you went through. Because even though we're having fun on here, in all reality, collections is a hard thing to do, because if you can't collect the money, you're not making money as a business. And that's really the bottom line too of it all. So I'm so thankful that you were able to share all that stuff. Now, going into fast forwarding right now in the next segment of your interview, what activities are you into? Girl, I've been seeing you all over Facebook. You're getting in all these events. You're going to have to like drop some names of some of these conferences that you got yourself into. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody, some of the exciting things that you're going to be participating in and where and what state?
Okay. Well, thanks, Ann. So the first event I'm doing is I'm a virtual speaker for Women of Impact. It's going to be having the conference is in Alabama next week, and it's Anika Wilson is the chairperson for it, and so it's called Women of Impact Conference. And so I'm one of the speakers, and my topic will be how secure is your cash flow. So I'll be talking about managing your money as a business owner and why that's so important. The second huge activity that I just got blessed with is that I will be sharing the stage virtually with Jewel Tankard. Jewel Tankard is the wife of Ben Tankard, the jazz and gospel singer, and she's also the star of the Bravo TV show thicker than water. So I was selected to actually be a speaker. So myself and there's several of us that were going to be virtual speakers. And so again, my topic is how secure is your cash flow, because her conference is called Millionaires Conference, and it'll be held in Detroit, Michigan, April 6th. Actually, it's a Saturday. And so she's got live speakers, and then there's going to be a whole segment of all of us that are doing virtual or video presentations. And so I'll be speaking about how secure is your cash flow, because I'll be speaking to women entrepreneurs, women who aspire to be entrepreneurs, who want to understand, okay, I'm thinking about being in business, and I want to be in business, and I have all this stuff, but I don't know how to handle the money. Well, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of handling your money, and there's just a small things you need to do to make sure that you're selling your product or service. But here's the thing to remember. Sales is not sales until the money is in the bank. Let me repeat that. Sales is not sales until the money is actually in the bank. So I want you to be successful in your business, but you got to make sure that, yes, you sell your product or service, crush it. But you got to make sure you also follow up and make sure that sale, i.e. money, is actually in your bank account, so you can actually continue to be a prosperous and successful business. So those are the two things I'm doing. There's one more thing I forgot.
Oh, I knew you had something in your sleeve. I knew there was one more.
I had one more, like Rocky and Bullwinkle. Nothing up my sleeve, presto. Okay, so last but not least, I am a co-author with the international speaker Cheryl Wood. She's doing a book project called Entrepreneur Elevation. There are 30 of us that are co-authors with Cheryl Wood, which is a phenomenal opportunity in and of itself. And so my chapter, of course, will be called How Secure is Your Cash Flow? And so we're putting together 30 tips for new, aspiring, and already successful entrepreneurs if they wish to take their business to the next level. Or the things that you need to know, understand, and implement in your business, so you can actually go from zero to however you wish to be successful. But each of us are bringing our level of expertise to the book. And so the book is called, again, Entrepreneurial Elevation. The book releases July 2019, and stay tuned, because we're going to have a book launch, and I would love for you guys to definitely buy the book from me and help make me like the number one co-author.
Okay, absolutely. We're going to definitely have some of those links on your page here, as people can click on those and definitely, connect with you in terms of not only the billing and collections, but also to have you come out and be part of their program, speaking about impact and also impacting others in what you're doing, and especially for the book as well, because, Cheryl Wood, she's awesome. She's out there doing her thing, and she was also one of the BMWC corporate sponsors for 2018. So definitely want to connect with Cheryl Wood and Dee Bowden on that. And so the last question that I would like to ask you before you give out your contact information is, what do you need personally and professionally to thrive and keep doing what you're doing? What do you need?
Personally, I need to go to church.
Okay.
Real talk. I need to go to church.
Talk.
Real talk. I need to make sure that I'm in God's house most Sundays. I need to be refreshed. As I said earlier in our conversation, I told you none of the success I have had has been without God. So my relationship with God means everything to me. So me being in church is very important. Tonight I was actually at the gym. So me exercising is also another thing that's very important. Taking care of my health so I can continue to run this race. Time with my friends is another thing that's very important. We talked about, you and I already talked about, we're going to do some jazz and some sangria. Gotta have that. So those are things that are very
absolutely gotta have some sangria.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And one thing for me, I love. Most people may not know this. I love Ferris wheels. So I love Ferris wheels. So as often as I can, I'm finding, if I'm traveling, I'm trying to find out if there's a Ferris wheel somewhere in the vicinity. You go find me on the Ferris wheel. And
when you come here to Maryland, we could definitely go to the National Harbor, because they do have a gigantic Ferris wheel out there. Oh my goodness. We could go on and on, folks, but you know what? I want everybody to check out the rest of her bio and also reach out to her if you're interested in learning more about BCS Solutions and anything that she's doing in terms of working out here in the public in the community with women and other entrepreneurs as well across the state. And so I want to remind everybody to please like, share, and vote for each of these pages out here, and keep your BMWOC award winners favorites in the running. We have 8 weeks of voting time, so make sure you're also sharing it and telling more people about what this podcast is about. And with that, I want to thank you, Dee, for being part of the movement and being on this podcast platform in 2019.
Well, thank you, Ann. It's actually been an absolute pleasure. So I actually have, if it's okay with you, I actually have a gift for the listeners.
Yeah, so give them your contact information and everything first, and then go ahead and share the free gift.
Okay, sure. So to get in touch with me, Dee Bowden with BCS Solutions, you can go to my website. It's www.bcsconsultinggrp.com. That's www.bcsconsultinggrp.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn, all Dee Bowden or BCS Solutions. And for the listening audience, there's a free gift. It's a free PDF. It's called 5 Successful Strategies to Collecting Your Money. It's called 5 Successful Strategies to Collecting Your Money. Go to my website, www.bcsconsultinggrp.com. Scroll down the middle of the page, put your name, email, click send, and then you can download that and you'll have a printout. It's a gift from me to say, here's how you can successfully collect your money. And if you need help, go ahead and schedule them. And go ahead. If you need help, go ahead
Call
and schedule an appointment. Schedule an appointment right after you do your download. Go ahead, right onto this calendar, click a free 30-minute consultation. We can talk, more things I can't talk about over here over the interview, but hey, I'm more than willing to have a conversation to see how I can help you recover your money and stay successful in 2019.
Absolutely. So again, guys, like, share, and vote, and also reach out to everybody that's on the podcast platform. Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, Ann. It's been a pleasure.